This week, Porsche unveiled the new Cayman GT4 RS, which is a car that I literally thought Porsche would never make. I mean, obviously, there is a formula that they follow: GT3, GT3 RS, GT4, GT4 RS. So there was a gap there, but let me explain why I thought they wouldn't build it. It's not because they couldn't make it, but because their product planning people wouldn't let them. You see, at Porsche, nothing happens by accident. Everything is methodically planned and calculated. This is part of what makes their car so amazing to drive and has led to tremendous success for the company. Things like the original Boxster and getting into the SUV market were critical decisions that helped the company. But like I said, none of that success was a surprise to Porsche. Let's just focus on the sports cars today, and if you look at the specs of, say, the 911, as you move up the range from the base Carrera to the Carrera S to the Carrera GTS to the GT3 and to the Turbo, you'll notice an extremely precise progression in terms of horsepower, torque, and 0 to 60 times. Like I said, nothing is accidental. It's a similar story with the Boxster and the Cayman lineup. I'm not going to dwell on the specs or the performance. There are a lot of other great videos on YouTube that can give you the full rundown on all of that, much better than I could. And obviously, I haven't driven one yet because, well, I don't think anyone's been able to drive the new GT4 RS yet. But what I do want to discuss is where the GT4 RS fits in the Porsche lineup and who's the buyer for one of these. Years ago, the Cayman started to get a bit more powerful, first with the Cayman R, and then with the GT4. And don't get me wrong, those are great cars, but Porsche was never going to let the Cayman outshine the 911. So they purposefully kept the performance at a level below that of their flagship model. As someone who owns both a mid-engine car, my Lotus, and a rear-engine car, my 911, I certainly understand the merits of each. But even Porsche knows that for all-out performance, mid-engine tends to be a better platform. It allows more drivers to extract the maximum out of the package, where a rear-engine machine, sure, you can get that level of performance, but it may not come quite as easily, and it may require a higher skill level from the driver. If you look at Porsche's high-performance cars and racing cars over the years, many of the great ones have been mid-engined. Let me name just a few: the 550 Spider, the 718 RSK, the 904 GTS, the 917, the 906, the 956 and 962, the Carrera GT, the 918 Spider, the GT1, and even more recent race cars like the RS Spider and the 919 Hybrid, all mid-engine. So Porsche knows what a mid-engine platform can do, and in fact, they tend to reserve it for their absolute highest performing cars. But will they allow the GT4 RS to outshine their GT3 and, more importantly, the yet to be released 992 GT3 RS? When it comes to street cars, and yes, you can still drive the GT4 RS on the street easily enough, the corporate philosophy seems to indicate that no, they won't let it outshine them. They'll keep the GT3 RS as the flagship in the GT series cars, and will make sure nothing trumps that. But it's interesting to think, what would happen if they went all out on the GT4 RS? What if they gave it the double wishbone front suspension, the exactly same spec engine, the rear wheel steering, and all the trick gizmos that make the GT3 so amazing? On the GT4 RS, there are things that you have to buy the YSOC package for that normally come standard on the GT3 RS, such as the carbon fiber hood. Just one more example of ensuring that the GT4 and the GT3 don't cannibalize each other's sales. Alright, so who is the GT4 RS really built for? The Porsche materials say, hey, it's a driver's car, it's at home on the track, but it's usable on the street, and all that normal stuff. Surprisingly, a lot of the materials focus on the sound of this car, and it's been mentioned in a bunch of the videos released already too. Yeah, mid-engine cars sound good. The engine is closer to your ear, of course. But the GT3 sounds really good too. I mean, is sound really a point of differentiation between these two cars that supposedly have the same engine? I get it, the exhaust will be different, but it still sounds like maybe a stretch if you ask me. The aerodynamics are a big deal, and they talk about the downforce that the new setup generates, so clearly they are targeting the track day guys. And I think this is the key thing. For a novice or even an intermediate level driver at a track day, a mid-engine car tends to be more predictable at the limit. Now, Porsches all have really sophisticated electronic systems to keep you out of trouble at the track, but if you're in a GT3 RS with all of those switched off, you definitely need to have your wits about you and know what you're doing. Maybe the GT4 RS in that case will be a little bit more user-friendly at the limit, mainly due to the inherent balance of that mid-engine chassis. So yeah, I guess that brings us to the question of who is it for? Let's look at the prices. The base price of a GT4 RS is $142,000 compared to $161,000 for the GT3. Now, I'm not talking about the GT3 RS because that's not out yet and we don't know what the base price is there. But between the GT4 RS and the GT3 standard, it's only a $19,000 difference. Now, I'd guess that the GT3 RS is going to start at close to $200,000. And it's likely, again, to come with more things standard versus the GT4 RS where you have to add the $13,000 ViSoc package to get certain features. So given that a nicely spec'd GT4 RS is probably going to run you around $181,000, even before any dealer markups or taxes, we're talking about a pretty expensive track toy. And in that specification, it's definitely exceeding the base GT3 price. But knowing Porsche, they'll be sure to make the GT3 RS that much better and price it just perfectly so that the GT4 RS and the GT3 RS aren't competing against each other. But it begs the question then, would you take a GT4 RS or a regular GT3? Let me know in the comments which you'd go for. As always, thanks for watching. Please consider subscribing if you like this kind of content.